can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. C.S. Lewis.
I am a train wreck, but I'm my favorite train wreck. Tatiana Restrepo.
The real difficulty is to overcome how you think about yourself. Maya Angelou.
My mother once told me that even though things look bad, there's a rainbow around every corner. Sid the Sloth.
Good morning. My name is Tatiana Restrepo, and I'm a sixth form boarder from Ridgefield, Connecticut. For those of you who don't know me, you will once you leave this room. Breast cancer has been intertwined with my life for as long as I can remember. Every year since before I could even walk, I went to the Susan G. Komen Race for a Cure in Orange County, California, because my aunt was a chairperson for the organization. She volunteered her time to support her mother, my grandmother, who was a breast cancer survivor. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. This week, as a school, we will be showing our support for those whose families have been touched by breast cancer. But today, I will be sharing how breast cancer affected my family and changed my outlook on the world. I consider myself to be a barrier, in that when something bad happens, I bury it really deep down inside and try to convince myself that it didn't affect me. I suppress my emotions and put on a smiling mask because the last thing I would want is to bring someone else down just because I'm upset. One year, in my school yearbook, a teacher wrote, "Keep smiling. It helps the rest of us smile too." And that comment stuck with me. It caused me to think that I had to be the one to make sure everyone else was okay, even if I wasn't. This chapel talk, if I deliver it correctly, is about to be a mixture of a therapy and advice-giving session on how I continue to try to live each day, and I hope that at least one sentence sticks with you and helps whenever you may need it. My mom is my best friend. She has taught me everything I know, from things as simple as how to put an outfit together to how to understand myself and why I am the way I am. Honestly, I don't know what I would do without her. When I was 13, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. At the time, our relationship was not nearly as strong as it is now. To say the least, I was a complete and utter brat. After being told about her diagnosis, my attitude only got worse. I got angry at the smallest things and lashed out at anyone and anything that caused even the smallest inconvenience. At the same time, my life revolved around dance. I spent every hour after school taking classes and trying to become the best dancer I could be. I had been at this dance studio for 4 years, creating a family with the other dancers who surrounded me. Together, we went through everything from injury recoveries to our first wins at competitions. I idolized my dance teachers. In the beginning, they were everything I wanted to become and more. Looking back now, I am proud to say that I did not stay on that path for too long before I lost who I was. As I continued to improve as a dancer, I noticed that the teachers were very defensive about their favorites, and I was most definitely not one of those. My anger and frustration grew as I was constantly trying to not only improve my dance technique, but also I was more worried about my mom than I realized. Eventually, everything came crashing out of me, and I was kicked out of my dance studio. With that, my friends who I considered to be like sisters to me stopped speaking to me. No one stayed in touch with me to ask how I was or how my mom was. My mom became more stressed as I now had even more emotions to suppress, making my attitude worsen. Lashing out turned into hysterically crying alone in my room, isolating myself from everyone around me. I was angry with myself for not knowing how to control my emotions and be better. Over the following year, with dance out of my life, I had a lot of time to think. I began to analyze everything I had done in the last year, and I realized how much time I had wasted. I realized that I was angry with the world for putting someone I cared about so deeply in such a horrible position. I was angry at my dance studio because they had stopped caring about me the way sisters should. It was at this time that I realized how I wanted to change the way I went about my life. I couldn't waste any more time. I was forced to acknowledge the fact that sometimes bad things happen to those we love, and that is when we begin to learn about ourselves. I began to understand how much I needed to be there for myself, to support myself, and love myself, because the only person in this world who will ever truly understand me is me. Real relationships are incredibly difficult to find, and I am so privileged to have one with my mom. In discovering how rare real relationships are, I realized that I needed to be there for her, but I could only do that if I knew how to take care of myself first. Please don't ever waste time. While my mom was recovering, our relationship blossomed into something more than I could have ever imagined. I never thought that my mom would be the person that I told all of my secrets to. I could have had this much earlier in my life, when I needed it most, had I not wasted so much of my time being angry at everyone and everything around me. I only realized that there was even a concept of really wasting time once she was diagnosed. I realized that life can change in a matter of seconds. My best friend could have been taken away from me before I even noticed the bond we would soon have. I no longer see a point in waiting for the right time. Time is fleeting. We have to acknowledge that fact, otherwise, we will live our lives constantly thinking about the what-ifs. When living with what-ifs, we are living in the past, and the past is something we cannot change. I am not a religious person. With that being said, I do believe that nearly everything happens for a reason. If I had not been asked to leave my dance studio, I would not have even considered applying to boarding school, and I would still be convinced that I have a chance at becoming a rockette, despite the height requirement that I am just 1 inch shy of. When I arrived at Westminster, I had convinced myself that I had to put on a persona of someone who was far from who I actually am. I was scared. As time went on, I realized that I didn't have to act like something that I'm not. I realized that I am good enough. Had I ignored the option of boarding school, I would have never become comfortable enough to actually be myself. We cannot control what other people do, but we can control our reaction. I choose to tell myself that everything happens for a reason because it forces me to think more positively about the future. I've had some pretty bad days, convinced that nothing could get better anytime soon. But as I've taught myself to take it in stride, I've been able to pull myself out of those dark places. When I am at my lowest, I have to remind myself that there is nowhere to go but up. I try my best, every day, to take every negative thing that happens to me and turn it into something new I can learn about myself or others. Sometimes I can't, but that's okay, because I'm still doing the best that I can, and at a certain point, that is all I can ask of myself. Self-love is the most important skill I have gained while maturing. In civic engagement sophomore year, we learned that people are inherently selfish, and while many people see this as a negative, it is quite the opposite. We have to care about ourselves in order to get to know ourselves. We have to put ourselves first, because if we don't, we will never truly know how to put another before us. We have to be there for ourselves when we don't need to be, so that we know we will have internal support when we do need it. I am not someone who normally talks about what is wrong. Sure, I complain about the things that annoy me, but rarely will I tell someone the deeper reason as to why I may be upset. It is not because I am not comfortable sharing. It is because I am still working on being there for myself. At boarding school, parents aren't always just a phone call away. Friends may be busy, and advisors have a lot on their plate as it is. I am not saying to not speak to people about your issues. What I am saying is that you have to know how to vent to yourself, because there may be a time when you are all that you have. What makes that thought comforting is knowing that you are all that you need. My mom is the strongest, most amazing woman I know. Words are not enough to describe how inspiring she is to me. I do not have the words to express how lucky I am to have been taught so much by such an incredible person. Through learning to love myself, I have been able to acknowledge the privilege I have to call her my mom. People are a beautiful privilege, and they are a necessary part of human growth. But loving and understanding oneself is the most amazingly simplistic part of truly living. Thank you. Thank you to those who have already donated and to those who plan to donate in the offertory today for Pink Ribbon Jacks. Pink Ribbon Jacks is an organization based out of Jacksonville, Florida that raises awareness of breast cancer and raises money to provide mammograms for those who cannot afford them. I have had the privilege of volunteering for this organization for the past 2 years, and I have been able to see the impact we have had on breast cancer fighters and survivors. Thank you for any donation you might be willing to make to this important issue.